welcome to the Momversation Club. I'm Claire Strong.
And I'm Christina Struckmeyer. We're two moms just like you, navigating the nitty-grittiness of modern motherhood and taking you along with us as we talk about the topics that nobody talks about.
Yes, and today we're going to be talking about diet culture and the role multi-level marketing takes within the system, where Christina will share her own personal journey from girl boss to acceptance and peace with her own body. Hi, Christina.
Hey, Claire. Happy New Year. Woo!
Wow, 2025. That's crazy, isn't it?
I know. It's our first episode of the new year, and I'm excited to jump back into it. It's been a crazy holiday season, but we are here. We've made it through.
We're still standing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I tell you, when the kids go back to school, I need a week off. I need a week of not doing anything. I'm not going to get it, but I'm just telling you that's
what I need. I'm not going to get it, but in a perfect world.
Oh my God. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to today's episode because it's something that as women, we're going to be pretty much bombarded by right now. And that is, the whole new year, new you culture. Whether that's dieting, getting fit, basically improving yourself.
Yeah.
But we're particularly going to focus on the MLM aspect of this, because this really was your life for several years, wasn't it? And
yes.
Can you just share with us why you got into it and your involvement in the whole MLM improving yourself industry?
Yeah, well, like you just said, so this time of year, you're going to be bombarded with all sorts of stuff. And one of the big ones, if you're on social media, is you might know a friend of a friend, or you might have a family member who is involved with a multi-level marketing program that focuses on health and wellness. And, there are so many different types out there, but they all have the same kind of vein of like the way that they work. And for a really long time, I was that lady. I was the, hey girl, but I didn't quite run my business that way. But I definitely was that person for many people who this time of year would rev up my social media. It would be a lot of before and after pictures and messages of the way I used to look versus the way I look now. And for those who aren't familiar with my backstory, I didn't always look like this plus size baddie that I look like now. I was quite significantly thinner for a big period of time from 2019 to 2022. I first got involved with multi-level marketing when a friend of mine jumped into a health and wellness program that was popular and lost a significant amount of weight, quite a bit. And it was really rapid, like very, very rapid. And this friend of mine and I had been ongoing diet buddies. We had sat in the Weight Watchers meetings and, learned about the 0 point foods, and we had done the Atkins and the carb, taking off, and all of the different fad diets you could think of. We had done it together. And we had also gone through young motherhood together. We both had our first babies around the same time. So we were in the space of really coming to terms with our bodies post-baby.
Yeah.
And what those look like. Because as you know, Claire, when you have a baby, things shift, things change. But yeah, it was like an ongoing struggle. So when this friend jumped onto an MLM and lost a bunch of weight, I went, well, where do I write the check? How do I get in on that action? Because I would also like to lose that much weight in that much time. So I got pretty into it. And I jumped in and, I will say for the things we're going to talk about today, it did deliver in the fact that I did lose a lot of weight very fast. I lost about 10 pounds a month for about 7 months.
God. So hang on a second. Let me just stop you there. That sounds like a very dramatic weight loss in a very condensed space of time. How did you do it? I mean, was it even like a healthy way to go about it? Because that sounds pretty dramatic.
So if you would have asked me even 2-3 years ago if it was a healthy way to do it, I would have had a packaged answer as to why it was, yes, indeed healthy. But looking back on it, I I would not classify it as a healthy way to lose weight. Like many MLMs, it relied on foods that you would purchase. So whether that be shakes or pills or whatever it is, like those companies rely on a product that's being sold so that they gain money from the consumer. In this case, it was a lot of packaged items. And I had a very, very restrictive calorie intake, very restrictive, ultra low caloric intake. During the time that I was in that rapid weight loss, I think my calorie threshold was anywhere from 800 to 1,000 calories a day.
Wow.
So that's extremely low. To give you perspective, they recommend that for a toddler.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so you signed up as a customer, first of all. Is that how this worked?
Yeah, I jumped in and I was not in any way interested in selling, said program. I didn't want to become one of those girls. And so I was like, I'm just going to jump in, do what she did and get out and, get my goods here. And like I said, it was really restrictive. There was a lot of moments where I had some red flags of, is this the best thing for my body? One of the first things was in the first week, you go through this really big adjustment because your body's used to eating the way you've been eating. And then all of a sudden you're eating like 800 calories, 900 calories. Your body's like, what the hell? Have we been dropped on Survivor Island? Like, what is happening? What is this? Totally. And so my body fought me. It was like giving me hunger cues. I remember feeling faint. I remember feeling like my body was eating itself. Like I was hungry. And the community of people that had been involved in that specific program assured me that this is a part of it. The first 3-4 days, your body is adjusting. And then you'll stop receiving those hunger cues and you'll kind of go onward and feel better and have more energy and feel like, it's working. And yeah, my body, after 3 days of not being listened to, 3-4 days, decided to stop telling me it was hungry. And I was able to stay in that really low caloric intake without much fight from it because it had given up.
Oh my God. When you phrase it like that, that's really scary. So
it is.
Yeah. I mean, so how did that impact you at that time? What was your mental state like? Were you grouchy? And I want to know, you said that they say that this is going to give you more energy. Did you get more energy or was it the reverse?
I mean, yeah, I did. Well, because I was obsessive about weighing myself because at that time I was really, I would have done anything to lose weight. If you would have been like, you have to shave your head, I'd be like, sure, where are the clippers? Like I really wanted to, I was at war with my body at that time. And I would have kind of gone through anything. And I did. I felt this body shift of how miserable it felt. But then once I got over that threshold, like they promised, I did feel a lot of energy. It kind of felt like I was high on cocaine or something. I was zipping around and dancing and vacuuming my whole house. I felt manic, but I liked it. And then I was seeing the scale go down 1 pound or 2 every single day. And so it really encouraged me to keep going because I was seeing those results. And it's not uncommon for people to feel effects like that in this specific program. And I imagine any MLM program that's doing this kind of stuff where you're in a low caloric intake, people, I remember there was this community group. We had a Facebook group for our members. And this is really commonplace with any MLM. They're going to put you in like a Facebook group with other members. Mm-hmm. And, I would see things like, I'm feeling faint. What should I do? And there would be people in the comments telling them their tricks to not faint. There would be people talking about low energy. And there would be people talking about hair loss, like their hair was falling out, things like that. Later on, I actually encountered those as an admin because I became like a pretty big deal among the community when I got into the coaching side, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I realized that there actually was a lot more of that chatter going on, but it was being repressed. A lot of comments got deleted. A lot of things that were complaints from others were buried because they didn't want people to get nervous. And there was a lot of things that were hidden about people's experiences in their bodies reaction.
That's so interesting because, you know, you wouldn't see the public facing side of that. I mean, what if you were, as you explained, you were a member of the Facebook group. They're obviously, it's a business. Let's be frank about this. It's a business. So they are not wanting any negative publicity to impact their bottom line. So, okay, so you joined, if that's the right word to say, as a customer. What? You obviously drank the Kool-Aid because then you became this, you know, this ambassador and you know, goal smashing coach. So what happened to make you step it up and actually do this for a living?
So I joined because at the time I was struggling financially to afford the food, like many people do, like people from all over.
Let me just stop there. You're struggling to afford the food. Do you mean the food that they're telling you to eat in order for you to?
Yeah.
That's scary. Okay, carry on. That is scary. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the case with many things. Like if you go to any MLM that, you know, focuses on diet culture, they're going to have products and they recommend their products, and those products are expensive. And so at the time I was like trying to justify it. There's a lot of really good catchphrases that they called them coaches, the people that sold the things, the people that were in the direct marketing were called coaches. But they would have all these reasons as to why it was affordable. But if you look at it like point blank, it was very expensive. And so I needed to afford to keep being skinny because I was watching this rapid growth. And so about 3 months in, my friend who, you know, had jumped in, she started selling it. And I was like, well, let me take a look at the business side of this. And I looked at the time breakdown of how they pay people and what the cost of business is. And I'm a very smart person. Let me just say that going in. I have a 4-year degree in marketing and PR, journalism. Like I know when to spot something that feels fishy. I was looking at it on a business side and went, wow, this is actually very intriguing. I could probably put in just a small bit of time and get quite a bit of money back and pay for the cost that it's costing me. Plus I could, you know, make some money to maybe start paying off some of my debt and, you know, my student loans and the cost of all of the things for Christmas and, you know, all these different costs that incurred to my family. Because at the time we were struggling paycheck to paycheck. And this is when I was with my ex-husband and he was doing this with me. And so we were both buying this stuff and it was getting to a point where I was like, either I join and drink the Kool-Aid and like hawk it as well, or we stop. And the stopping just didn't seem like an option because of the fixation on it.
I want to ask you about some of the wording and phrases and terminology, because although I have never participated, I guess is the right word, in an LMM, I have been approached several times. I was in a coffee shop about a year ago, and someone overheard me talking to the girl behind the counter who was serving me. And because I'm chatty and I'm confident, she made a beeline for me. She was like, "Oh my God, you know, can I just chat with you? You'd be so great at this." And so I was like, you know, I'm in a networking phase here. I'm wanting to network in San Diego. She said, "Oh, let me introduce you to my boss. She's this and that, and she's so well connected." And I was like, you know, I'm not interested in this from an LMM standpoint, but maybe this is, you know, it's worth meeting this woman so I can network. And honestly, Christina, when I sat down, it was like I was talking to a cult member. They had talking points to the extreme. And then the funny thing is, and she was drawing me a diagram of, you know, what, you know, this is what happens here, and then it's there, da, 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 da. And then the following week, I had a meeting with her boss, this amazing boss who kept telling me about, And it was a carbon copy situation. And that's when I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with these people. And the boss got her notepad out and drew the exact same diagrams and said the exact same things. And I was like, I just don't think this is a great fit. So I wish you both well, but I'm out. But the reason I mentioned that experience is because it's very cult-like. I mean, there is pressure there, and they have an answer for everything. And if you're not in a stable place in your life, whether it's financially unstable, whether you're going through a divorce, or all of these factors that women, particularly moms, can be vulnerable to at times in their life, I can see that you would capitulate under that pressure, because they walk, talk, and breathe whatever it is that they're selling. So, I just, the pressure, I can imagine, is immense.
Oh, it's by design, girl. Absolutely. And this is the interesting thing, is it's by design across the board, no matter what the product is. You could be selling eyeliner, you could be talking about diet pills, you could be talking about whatever. If you get into a situation where you're interacting with that person one-on-one, it is basically the same situation with a different flavor. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it is, every element of it is from a script of some sort, even if it gets tweaked a bit. So you described like the meeting. So with MLMs, there is usually two different ways to make money. There's selling the product, and then there's recruiting people to sell the product. And so selling the product for most people isn't really where you make the most money. Like, for me, at the beginning, I was really good at it. Like, I had done sales for a really long time. I sold the shit out of it. Like, I was like, everybody and their mothers quite literally was on it, right? I like hit my local market, which with what they call your friends and family, pretty damn fast, and everybody was doing it. But I realized that it might be smarter to start finding people to do it underneath me. And that way I don't have to work as much and can be getting a little bit more money. And so that's where that came in. And when you talk about that interaction, I mean, you were probably laser focused in on at that coffee shop, and they look for certain characteristics for both the client side and the coaching side. So they're always, the person that is in the MLM is trained to kind of look at people as a potential customer, whether it's like possible business partner or possible like client.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they were doing with me. They were checking me out. I think I proved too problematic for them. I had too many questions.
Too many questions, Claire.
I was literally dealing with journalists, so they were like, "Oh, thank God this woman's actually not interested."
Well, it's because so for the coach side, we're trained to like find their pain point. So is it that they're worried about gaining their weight back? Well, joining the MLM makes you live and breathe it, and so you're less likely to gain your weight back. So that's a really good way to solve that. Maybe you're underneath financial constraint and you can't afford doing this anymore, or you have other needs that are even much higher. Well, buy this coaching kit, or buy this direct sales kit, or buy this warehouse full of leggings, and you will become just like me, and you will be able to live the life that I live. Another one is community. There's a lot of women who feel isolated, especially moms. Moms get targeted hard with MLMs. And they know you maybe just had a baby, you're struggling with your weight, you're feeling alone, you're feeling isolated. How wonderful would it be if we just inserted 500 best friends and you got to talk to people every day and feel important and feel like you're making a difference? And there's this level of like feeling like you're a big deal in these things. It's like a cult, girl. It is a cult.
Yes. I wanted to just pick up on that, because quite often, and I saw posts that you posted that would fit into this. Some of the job, if you like, you get flown to conferences and put up in hotels, and then maybe you get to win a cruise and all of that. And so, I knew one friend of mine who was part of an MLM, and she got to fly on a private jet. And so, these things are very tempting. If you're a regular mom who's in the thick of motherhood, those things probably aren't at your disposal very often or ever. Jetting off on cruises or flying in a private jet. And so when you see that, not only can you make this money for your family, but once or twice a year we'll do this for you, it's literally dangling the carrot, isn't it?
Absolutely. And they teach you if you're good at it. Because there's also the fact that a lot of people join these things and don't make any money and don't go anywhere. And now they're out the cost of whatever it costs to recruit you, because there is a cost to join typically. And in some instances, it's actually quite a bit. In my company that I worked with, it wasn't a lot. But I've seen other models where it's much larger. And some people join and nothing happens. They can't convince anyone to jump in. And it's very much both with the client side and the business side. If you can't make it work, it's a you problem. Like, you've done something wrong. You weren't working hard enough. With the weight loss side, you weren't, starving yourself enough. You gave in to your hunger. Like, there's just so much burden on the person who's just trying to join what they're seeing. And you're, as an MLM person, spinning your real life to look so appetizing. I remember going through some really hard stuff. And I remember being coached to not share that right away and to find a way to make it positive. And so I went through a divorce while I was a part of this MLM. And I hid the fact that I was having marriage problems. And not that you should share everything on social media. Not everyone does that. But my job was to post 2 to 3 times a day, all the highlights of my life and all of the ways that you can improve, whether it be a picture of someone losing weight or something that happened to me that was amazing. I did not share this huge chunk of my life until after I was through it, and there was a way I could PR spin it to be positive.
Yeah.
And everyone does that. So you're watching this highlight reel that's been just tweaked enough by everyone and their mothers. They have their hands on it to make sure it's happy and ambitious and exciting. And then people want to get in on that, and they find that it's actually not at all the way you've put it out there. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time at your desk. It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of not being free. There's a lot of you'll have a life of freedom if you're cool working all of the time on your phone. I never worked harder in my life. I worked all of the time, and it showed financially. I gained a lot of money, and I was able to financially afford to leave my marriage. I had the time freedom to, and that's another phrase, by the way, time freedom, and it's still in there. The cult verbiage doesn't leave, Claire.
Oh my God.
The time freedom to go date someone who lived in the middle of nowhere on a farm and experiment what that might be like without having to attend a 9-to-5 and balance work. There was a lot of positives, but there was a lot of negatives I didn't show. And so people come in and they're expecting one thing, and they get kind of hoodwinked into another, and they are targeted. It is looking at specifically people who need something, that are looking for something and want to get in. And then we're trained, and I didn't realize this when I was in it because I had drinking the Kool-Aid, and all the questions I had in the beginning had been shut down, and I watched people be blacklisted if they asked the wrong questions. And I don't know, something in me, I shut down a part of my brain and just kind of stayed in that space. And I was cool with spinning that and bringing people in and not sharing the full thing, because I was well, look at all these good things it brought me. I was the bad doesn't outweigh the good. And so therefore I'm doing something good. When in reality, for most people, it was a bad experience.
And now a quick break in the Momversation to bring you a word from today's sponsor.
Raise your hand if you love shopping for jeans. Well, if you're listening with a hand up, then you're in the minority, because for most of us, it's a nightmare.
Waist gaps, unclear sizing, fluorescent lights, unflattering fits. I am sweating just thinking about it. What if we could skip all of that and just have the perfect pair magically transported to us?
Well, that's where today's sponsor, Neems Jeans, comes in. This women-owned business was created by someone who understands the struggle and offers custom denim jeans made to your exact body measurements, delivered right to your door.
Neems Jeans gives you the perfect fit every time, guaranteed, and offers inclusive sizings for every body. Moms, you are one of a kind, and your jeans should be too. Visit neemsjeans.com and use code Momversation15 at checkout for 15% off your order.
That's NEEMS jeans.com and code Momversation15 for your special savings.
What did that do to your emotional and mental state?
Oh, girl. Bad shit. Like, it's not good.
Okay. So time that you were really immersed in it and you were drinking the Kool-Aid, as you just said, and you were posting 2 to 3 times a day. Like, how were you doing mentally and emotionally at that time?
So there is something deeply unsettling about making your whole life about the way you look. And I did that for 5 years. I lost a significant amount of weight. I was at the lowest my body had ever been. At the time of my lowest weight, my collarbones were protruding, and I believed I had 10 more pounds to lose. Like, there was never going to be an inline for me where I was skinny enough that I was good enough. And it wasn't just me thinking that. There was a lot of language coming at me from the coaching side of that. I would attend these webinars, these live webinars, and they would say things like, well, if your business is growing, your waistline is shrinking. And they would encourage people who were selling the program to jump back in and get more, what was the word? Get in integrity with what they were selling. So people who had maybe lost all of their weight and were trying to move on and like maybe live a life where they weren't in restriction were encouraged to keep restricting to show that proof is in the pudding. So I did that. For 5 years, I was on this thing I'm sharing with you. There was brief moments where I would get off and I would gain weight and I jump right back in. And so I stayed in a restrictive 1,000 calorie space for years. And it did a lot for me mentally, but also my body. My metabolism was shot at the end. Like, I gained my weight so much faster after I got out of it. And it was really hard on my mental health to not only see the weight gain as like a normal person who gains weight and has their own feelings about that, but my whole life was outward to people. And it was like, come over here. I am this shiny, skinny, beaming, happy person. And when I hit this, actually the reason I left was that started hitting my mental health when I was pregnant with my second daughter. I was watching myself gain weight for pregnancy and thinking, gosh, people aren't going to want to follow me because I'm gaining too much weight. People aren't going to want to buy my stuff because I am not, this really healthy person during my pregnancy. But the reality was I was hyper sick during my first trimester and barely could eat anything. The second trimester, I got diabetes. Like, I was doing my damn best, but I was so hard on myself. It was difficult.
So that was the turning point for you when you got pregnant and you just felt that the pressure was too much, that you couldn't keep up this facade, for want of a better word?
Yeah, I felt myself like really pulling all of my energy up to like share the most positive things in the world. And on the other side of the computer or the cell phone, I was miserable. And I lost my father during that time. I remember, this is so heartbreaking, but I have Facebook memories now. So I can see like what I posted, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. The day my dad passed, I did 3 posts about before and afters and financial freedom of getting this job. I did not miss a beat with doing my MLM outward appearance as my dad died.
Wow.
And that was encouraged. Like, I remember feeling a lot of praise from the community of other people that were selling this, being like, wow, she's doing her business above all. She's really putting her best foot forward. I was held up as this like beam of way to do things. And And then when I stopped doing that and started sharing more of my realness, and when I started seeing weight gain come on, I was not asked to be on the top of the webinars. I was not asked to speak at things. I was not asked to do any of that stuff. So it was a clear indication of, if you share the real, you will not be a part of this crowd. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to watch my path towards postpartum depression and the death of my father and all this awful stuff, and then watch me try to spin it. I even a post about my dad being hospitalized. I was like, this is why I'm so grateful that I work in a health space and help people every day. Like, what the fuck, Christina? Not to get, lots of foul words on here, but like, I was fully drinking the Kool-Aid. I was a part of this situation, and I was so deep in it, I couldn't even see it. I was taught in it to push people away that didn't support me and bring in more people who did. So much like a cult, I found myself getting further and further and further isolated within it, so that when I did finally leave, I felt so alone. And thankfully, my husband and my family and my friends who were here could be there with me, but it was hard. It was hard to leave.
How does it make you feel looking back on those Facebook memories and, looking at those posts, but actually realizing what was your reality, which wasn't necessarily what you were posting? How do you feel about all of that now?
I've actually been, for my own mental health, like deleting them. So whenever I open Facebook memories every morning, I go through every single post of that day, and I delete anything that has anything to do with it. And if it's a photo, because a lot of times I would take photos of my daughter and I would spin them towards the MLM, I'll rewrite the caption so that I remember that memory differently. And I'm kind of trying to heal myself a bit in that action. But it's difficult, and it affected my mental health a lot. And I feel like not just the weight gain, which was, again, like so attributed to the fact that I left this very, very unhealthy, restrictive environment and have begun healing my relationship with food, which became very disordered. There's a lot of mental health in shifting. And it's hard because there are people in my life still, and I know chatter happening on the outside of, wow, Christina's really let herself go. And I know that in my heart of hearts because I did it to other people when I was in the cult.
Wow. What was the conversation when you told them you were going to leave? Like, what was that like? How did they react?
Oh, they did not want me to leave. So I was a very high earner at the time. Just to give you guys perspective, I mean, I was bringing in just for myself, which means the company was getting way more because like we weren't paid the level that we were bringing in. At one point, like $8,000 a month was coming in income.
Wow.
And it was probably the height of my like career, probably the most low I've ever been, but like the height of my career. But typically I brought in like 4,000 to 5,000. And so if I'm here in the little pyramid of MLMs, there are people who make money from me that are above me. And when I decided to leave, it was very much like everybody scattered to try to like convince me to stay or at least hear me out. It was really a wonderful thing because there was a trigger for it. It wasn't that my mental health was in the gutter. It wasn't that I was struggling with my weight and my identity to that. It was that they had taken on a business opportunity that I no longer ethically stood by. I had drawn a line in the sand and went like, you know what, I can't do that. And they tried to spin it. And I was like, something about my pregnancy and being away from it enough, I could see a little clearer, and they weren't quite able to spin it the way they used to be able to spin it with me. And and then I found out real fast this family that I had become to know became scavengers, and they started trying to find out how they could get access to my client list and try to make sure that everybody's being helped. And they were sending newsletters to people that were working with me previously, even though what I had decided to do was, I felt at the time I was still helping people. So I was like, well, let me help these people, and these will be my last people. And then when it comes a time for me to renew my license, which is what we did, every year you renew to become that direct sale person. And that's a cost, by the way. When it becomes time to renew, I just won't renew. And so I was going to just very peacefully transfer power and not make any ruckus, not make any noise. But they real quickly like started grabbing on and pulling clients to their stuff. And it was interesting. And one of the people who treated me like a child and would often call me, she'd be like, I'm your second mama. She was an older woman who was above me. She got so just shameless. And I went, do you see yourself? Like, this is disgusting. Like, you should be ashamed for the way that you're acting right now. This is embarrassing. Like, do you not have any, like, shame at all? And I just deleted her and blocked her. And I've tried to kind of pull away from anybody in that space. I've kept a few people just because I've grown enough friendship with them where I truly care about them. But not very many are still in my life.
Well, going back to my brief brush with MLM, I remember sitting in the first of the two meetings I had with this younger woman. She's the one who recruited me in the coffee shop. And she was, basically upselling her boss. She really wanted me to meet this boss. And as she was explaining about her, honestly, that should have been the red flag to just leave and run for the hills. But she said, she's more than a boss. She said, she's like my life coach. She said, I actually don't make any decision in my life without consulting her first. That's how amazing this woman is that you're going to meet. And she told me, she said, if I have an option for a plan that I'm doing with my boyfriend, I will call her and ask her advice on whether we should go here or there. And so that's how entrenched and influenced some of these disciples, I guess, are.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is the higher up I got, the more insight I got into what people were actually like inside, because they began taking off their shields and kind of letting me in a bit. And they're actually people I wouldn't want to be hanging out with. Like, most of the people that are high up in the company they drink a lot. They aren't very kind to others. There was a top tippity top person that I got to meet at a retreat that I earned, which, by the way, any retreat that you see that was earned, they don't pay for everything. Like, you might earn, it's very much like they word it a certain way. But like, for instance, I got to go to Maui for a retreat once. And I was given the hotel and I was given like transportation or whatever, but the cost of my airline ticket was there. There was a cost of you had to do certain things in order to get there. And one of those things was attend a certain seminar, and that seminar cost money. There were things that you had to do and spend money on to earn those things.
So even the stuff that is the kind of like shiny star that you're following, some of that isn't what it seems either.
Nope. So, but all I have to say is I met a tippy top person, and I remember talking to her, and she asked about my daughter, and then she decided to just talk about autism at length. It was just like really not informed information. And we were at like a coffee side chat like situation where all of these like high level people were there. And I knew I couldn't correct her. And I was just like, oh, this is ugly. Like, you don't know anything about anything, and you're just like spouting off, and people are just sucking the tea. And I don't like this. Like, this doesn't feel good. I feel like there were like many moments where my like rose colored glasses got a dent. And it wasn't until I was fully able to see it clearly that I was able to step out. And I even had a best friend, like my best friend, the one that pulled me in to this whole thing. She left a year before I did. And when she left, she wasn't so graceful. She like threw a bomb back there and like watched everything explode. And it was like, she was like, F all of you. Like, I'm dropping the mic. Like she was not okay with anything that was, because she got her rose-colored glasses went off real fast, and
Wow.
she tried to bring me with her, and I wasn't ready. And we didn't have friendship for 2 years. And there was a lot of other things, like a lot of passive aggressive other things that we've talked about that led to that. But we had a big break in friendship because her glasses were off before mine. So if you have a friend that's in an MLM, sometimes they're just not ready to leave because they haven't fully seen what they need to see. I hope for everyone they have that moment like I did, where I wake up and I'm able to go, wait a second. But it's hard because I constantly look back to that version of myself, and it's hard to not see the full reality, because I was so good at making my life look good that sometimes I trick myself.
That's scary. The other thing, and as an observation from someone who hasn't been, part of an MLM, I see friends or associates or, friends of friends on Facebook, and they're, promoting this new shampoo or whatever. It's going to make your hair look fantastic. But, they go all in, and I've seen this so many times, but then it peters out. And so what do you think that's about? Because a lot of these people that join these MLMs, they're not there long, in my observations.
Yeah.
They're all in, and then they seem to just fizzle out. And so why do you think that is?
Well, if you would have asked me 2-3 years ago, I would have been like, they don't work hard enough. They don't put in the time. They don't go to all the seminars. They don't blah, blah, blah. They're letting stinking thinking come in, which is another phrase that they used to say. Stinking thinking. Don't keep it simple, stupid. KISS. Don't question any of the systems. Don't let people in who have stinking thinking. There's like a lot of like little isms. Oh. So I think from the inside of their MLM, people would say they didn't work hard enough. But I would say that, one, the MLM market that used to be a valid choice 6-7 years ago no longer exists in today's world. People are more aware, and I think people are a little bit smarter these days, and they've seen enough that they aren't falling for that. When it comes to diet and wellness, there are so many competitive type things like the Ozempic shots and Wegovy's and gastric bypass, and there's so many things available. So they're kind of having a hard time over that. And then the other thing is that after you hit a certain point, you've touched all your friends and family. You told the ladies at church that you have this mascara that does wonders, and all the ladies who were going to buy it. And if you've not recruited one of those ladies to sell it and find her little market, you're kind of tapped out unless you start going on social media or going to a certain group and trying to like cold sell, basically. And I was encouraged to do that. I was encouraged to make friends with people who I normally wouldn't make friends with. I was encouraged to add people to social media that I had never met, that we had like similar friends, and not be like, hey girl, I have an opportunity for you, or hey girl, looks like you're getting chunky. Like, that's not the pitch. It was sneaky. It was looking at women specifically who looked like they were in need in some way, whether they were lonely, needed to lose weight, needed financial help, and then target them and become friends with them. And that looked like posting all your sunshiny posts and then going over to their Facebook page and liking all the pictures of their kids and being like, oh my God, how fun. What'd you guys do at Disney? So that your algorithm would show up in her feed and she would ask you about it.
Wow. Really quite calculated, isn't it?
It is very, very manipulative. Yeah. And it sucks because I've actually found a lot of really wonderful relationships in my life that started like that. Like, I fully saw them as a target and went like hook, line, sinker, like, let me boop. And I was successful because I feel like I've got that personality where people are drawn to me and they believe me. But it sucks because one of my closest friends, I found her on a Facebook group for special needs moms, and I fully added her because I was hopeful that she would join my direct selling. I was fully like, this woman has gained weight. I can tell in her pictures, let me add her. and continue to talk to her and build friendship until she asks me about this.
Oh my God. There is a definite common thread, and that's vulnerability. All the people that are drawn into this, that are targeted, they're vulnerable in some way, Christina, either financially, either because they've put weight on, either because they don't have friends, or they may be isolated or lonely. There's a definite common theme, which actually makes it all the more despicable, I guess, that, vulnerable women in particular are being preyed on. So I'm really interested to know what you would say to a mom who is watching this, listening to this, and, they just want to make some money for the family. They want to be able to have that nice holiday in the summer, which, according to the MLM that they've just been hit up by, that's what they're going to be able to do. What would be your advice to any mom who is thinking about doing what you did?
I think if I were talking to like a version of me that, is listening to this and someone who thinks like me, I would say, what's the real cost? Like, let's look at this with a bigger picture lens. You can also make a lot of money on OnlyFans by showing, pictures of your feet. Let's
the hand model. I could do that. OnlyFans for feet. I don't know. Whatever.
I think that I'm hoping the reason I'm sharing today is that my story will affect someone. Maybe you were a part of an MLM and you're feeling seen and heard right now because you're like, oh my God, yes, some of this is ringing true for me. Or maybe you never had this experience and you've always wondered what that was like. I'm hoping this is a cautionary tale because through all of this mess and just like mental warfare and physical warfare on my body, I've come to a place where I feel like I'm on the other side a little bit. And I would not say that I love my body every day. I don't think that that's true of anyone. I don't think you can ask a single woman out there that's like, I would change nothing. I love it every day. But I've become accepting of her. I am okay with my body and the way that it is and the way that it needs to be in different seasons. And I accept her and I'm thanking her for bringing my children, for allowing me to breathe and do things every day. And if I decide to shift in a way of actually getting healthy in a real way, I know that that's not the path because anything that feels like a quick fix is probably not it. The true way to change your habits is to change your habits. You can't take this miracle drug and also eat, Dairy Queen every day. That's not going to work. You have to actually look at your life and go, what's sustainable? What can I do? And what can I do in a way where it's not going to hurt my mental health? Because it's not worth it to be, even at my skinniest. Like, I just want to say I'm 5'6". I was like 148 pounds at one point. Or like 150. And on my frame, I mean, my cheeks were gaunt. My neck, my collarbones were poking out, and I was proud of it. I used to pop my collarbone out in dresses so that people could see it, so they can see how skinny I was. I would pose and be obsessed with my body. I would check every single mirror. That's no way to live. And it's really hard to undo it, and I still struggle with it. I have a lot of hard times with the way it shifted. I have a hard time with my relationship to people who met me at that smaller version of myself and going, ooh, do they still love me? Do they still like me the same? Was I better back then? It's hard. It's a hard road. But for someone who's listening right now and you're looking at the shiny, it's not as shiny as you think. That's my word. That's my encouragement for you all, is to really have some frame of thought. I hope this helps. And if you have an experience, I'm here to listen. I think that given the targeting of women and mothers, there's more of us than there's not. And we're taught to be silent, but I think there's power in voices. And so we're here to listen if you want to message us or send us an email. And obviously, we've talked about some sensitive topics today, so we will link some resources in the show notes.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review.
We hope today's episode has really helped you to feel more seen and less alone in motherhood. Until next time, bye for now.